The rain lashed against the windows of Dinelli's, the droplets racing down the glass like tears. I tucked a strand of hair behind my ear and balanced another tray of champagne flutes. My feet ached in the second-hand heels I'd bought from the thrift store. Black, slightly scuffed at the heel, but passable enough for tonight's event. "Alex, table 7 needs refills." Marco, the shift manager, snapped his fingers in front of my face. "And smile more. These people are paying thousands to be here." I nodded, exhaustion settling deep in my bones. 8 hours into a 12-hour shift, and the charity gala was just hitting its stride. Crystal chandeliers threw fractured light across the room, illuminating faces of people who spent more on a bottle of wine than I made in a month. "Right away," I muttered, my smile tight and practiced. The weight of my problems pressed down on my shoulders, heavier than the tray I carried. 3 months behind on rent, Dad's medical bills piling up. And the message I'd received this morning. Final notice, eviction proceedings to begin in 48 hours. I blinked back tears. I couldn't lose our apartment. Dad was too sick to move, and we had nowhere else to go. I weaved through the crowd, the scents of expensive perfume and cologne mingling into a suffocating cloud. The guests barely noticed me. I was invisible, just another server in a sea of black and white uniforms. That's when I saw him. He occupied the center table but sat slightly apart from the others, an empty chair on either side creating a bubble of space no one dared to penetrate. Dark hair, perfectly styled. A bespoke suit that seemed to absorb the light rather than reflect it. His profile was sharp, dangerous, the kind that should come with a warning label. But it was the stillness that caught my attention. While everyone around him gestured, laughed, moved, he remained utterly motionless, like a predator waiting to strike. The man beside him, shorter, with nervous eyes that darted around the room, leaned in to whisper something. The dark-haired man gave the slightest nod, but even that small movement radiated authority. I realized I'd been staring when a woman bumped into me, nearly sending my tray of drinks flying. "Watch it," she hissed, her diamond earrings catching the light as she turned away. I steadied the tray with trembling hands and continued toward table 7. As I approached, a strange hush fell over the guests. They straightened in their chairs, conversations dying mid-sentence. My gaze inadvertently met the dark-haired man's, and an electric current shot through my body. His eyes were gray, no, silver, like polished steel, and just as hard. They held mine for a fraction of a second before dismissing me. I began placing champagne flutes on the table, careful not to spill a drop. The silence was unnerving. I could hear my own heartbeat, the rustle of my uniform, the clink of glass against the tablecloth. "Your name." The words weren't a question, but a command. Low, with an accent I couldn't place. Italian, maybe, but with something harder underneath. I looked up, startled. The dark-haired man wasn't looking at me, but I knew he had spoken. He was examining his watch, platinum, I guessed, worth more than my father's medical treatments. My voice caught. Alessandra Russo, but everyone calls me Alex." He didn't respond, and I felt heat rise to my cheeks. Why had I offered my nickname, as if this man would ever use it? I finished distributing the champagne and turned to leave when his voice stopped me again. "Stay." My feet froze to the floor. "Sir?" I managed, cursing the quiver in my voice. Now he looked at me, those silver eyes assessing me with such intensity that I felt stripped bare. "Replace Mr. Caruso's drink." He spilled his. I glanced at the man seated to his right, Caruso, and saw the overturned glass, champagne soaking into the white tablecloth. I hadn't even noticed it happen, of course. I quickly placed a fresh glass in front of Mr. Caruso, who mumbled a thank you without meeting my eyes. When I turned to leave again, the dark-haired man's hand shot out, his fingers wrapping around my wrist. His touch was shockingly warm. I'd expected ice. "What's your hurry, Alessandra Russo?" He said my full name like he was tasting it, rolling each syllable on his tongue. The room seemed to shrink, the air thinning. Every instinct screamed danger, but I couldn't pull away. "I have other tables," I whispered. His lips curved into something too predatory to be called a smile. Not anymore. With a subtle gesture, he summoned Marco, who appeared at his side instantly, face pale. "Mr. Castellano," Marco said, his usual bravado replaced with deference. "Is everything to your satisfaction?" Castellano. The name struck a chord of recognition. Rumors whispered among staff during breaks. Hushed conversations that stopped when management walked by. Vincent Castellano, the owner of half the businesses in the district. The man whose name made even the police look the other way. "This server will attend to my table exclusively for the remainder of the evening," Mr. Castellano said. "See to it." Marco nodded, not even glancing at me. "Of course, sir." And just like that, I was reassigned. My fate decided without my input. Mr. Castellano released my wrist, leaving a phantom heat where his fingers had been. "Bring a bottle of the Brunello di Montalcino. The 97, not the 98. He turned away, dismissing me. I hurried to the wine cellar, mind racing. Vincent Castellano was not just wealthy. He was feared. What did he want with me? I'd heard enough stories about men like him to be terrified, but I needed this job desperately. One complaint from him would not only get me fired, but would ensure I'd never work in any decent establishment in the city again. When I returned with the wine, the table had emptied, except for Mr. Castellano and his nervous companion. I uncorked the bottle with unsteady hands, hyper-aware of his gaze following my movements. "Leave us," he told the nervous man, who instantly stood and walked away. My heart hammered against my ribs. I was alone with him now. "Sit down," he ordered, gesturing to the chair beside him. I clutched the wine bottle like a shield. "Sir, I'm working. I can't." "Sit. Down." Each word cut like a blade. I sat, perching on the edge of the chair, ready to flee. The empty ballroom suddenly felt cavernous, swallowing any sound that might alert others to my predicament. "How much?" he asked. "Excuse me?" "How much do they pay you here?" I swallowed hard. "Minimum wage plus tips, sir." He made a sound of disgust. "And how much do you need?" Confusion froze me in place. "I don't understand." He leaned closer, and I caught the scent of his cologne, sandalwood, and something darker, like night air before a storm. "The eviction notice, Alessandra." "How much do you need to make it go away?" Ice flooded my veins. "How do you know about that?" Instead of answering, he pulled out a phone, not the one I'd seen him using earlier, and tapped the screen. "Your apartment on Harrow Street, rent 3 months behind, $3,400 total. Your father's medical bills for his heart condition, approximately $27,000 after insurance. Your student loans, deferred but accumulating interest. The credit card debt you've amassed trying to keep everything afloat." He looked up, eyes piercing. "Did I miss anything?" Terror clawed at my throat. "Who are you? How do you know these things?" "Information is power, Alessandra, and I make it my business to be powerful." He slid the phone back into his pocket. "Now answer my question. How much do you need?" My mind reeled. Was this some twisted game? Rich man dangling salvation in front of the desperate girl? "I don't want your charity," I said, finding a shred of dignity to cling to. His laugh was short and without humor. "I don't give charity. I make investments." A chill ran down my spine. "What kind of investment?" Before he could answer, the ballroom doors burst open. A man in a dark suit strode in, his hand reaching inside his jacket. Mr. Castellano moved with shocking speed, grabbing my arm and yanking me to the floor just as the first gunshot cracked through the air. "Stay down," he growled in my ear, his body covering mine as glass shattered above us. More shots rang out, followed by shouts and the thundering of footsteps. Mr. Castellano's weight pressed me into the carpet, his heartbeat steady against my back while mine threatened to explode. "Sir!" a deep voice called out. "Area secured." Mr. Castellano rose in one fluid motion, pulling me up with him. My legs wobbled like a newborn colt's. 3 men in suits surrounded us, guns drawn. Beyond them, I glimpsed a body on the floor, a dark stain spreading across the marble. "Get her out of here," Mr. Castellano ordered, his hand still gripping my arm. "Take her to the penthouse. No one sees her, no one speaks to her." "Wait," I gasped, panic rising. "I can't. My father," his silver eyes locked onto mine. "Your father will be taken care of, but right now, you're in danger." Why? I don't understand. That bullet wasn't meant for me, Alessandra. His voice dropped lower. It was meant for you. The world tilted sideways. That's impossible. Why would anyone? Because of who your father is. His expression hardened. Or rather, who he was before he became Michael Russo. My mind went blank. What are you talking about? My father is a high school English teacher. Mr. Castellano's eyes narrowed slightly, the only indication of surprise. You don't know, he said, realization dawning in his voice. He never told you. One of his men approached urgently. Sir, police will be here in 3 minutes. Mr. Castellano made a decision. You're coming with me, Alessandra, now. No, I need to go home. My dad needs his medication. I can't just... Sit down, Mr. Castellano ordered, his voice like steel, as he guided me into a chair that had somehow remained upright. Your father isn't who you think he is, and going home right now will get you both killed. I'm trying to save your life. I stared up at him, mind reeling from too many revelations at once. The room spun around me, faces and lights blurring together. Who are you? I whispered. Who am I? His expression softened just slightly. The answers will come, but not here, not now. He extended his hand. Trust me, Alessandra. Just for tonight. Against every rational thought, I placed my trembling hand in his. It felt like signing a contract with the devil, but a devil who had just taken a bullet that was meant for me. As his men surrounded us and escorted us through a service exit, I knew my life had just changed irrevocably. The invisible server was invisible no more. I'd been seen by Vincent Castellano, and for reasons I couldn't begin to comprehend, that made me a target. The cool night air hit my face as we emerged into an alley where a black SUV idled, engine purring. Mr. Castellano guided me inside, his hand at the small of my back. Your father kept you hidden for 25 years, he said as the door closed, sealing us in darkness. But someone found you anyway, and now the only person who can keep you alive is me. As the vehicle pulled away from Donnelly's, I felt the threads of my former life snapping one by one. Whatever truth awaited me in Vincent Castellano's world, I knew one thing with certainty: I would never be invisible again. The SUV glided through rain-slicked streets, each turn taking me further from the life I knew. Vincent Castellano sat beside me, his profile illuminated by passing streetlights that threw shadows across the sharp angles of his face. He hadn't spoken since we left Donnelly's. His attention focused on one of his phones as his fingers moved rapidly across the screen. 2 men occupied the front seats. The driver, built like a mountain with hands that gripped the steering wheel with practiced ease, and another man whose eyes constantly scanned our surroundings, one hand resting inside his jacket. My father. I finally broke the silence, my voice small in the confines of the vehicle. Is he safe? Vincent looked up from his phone. He's being relocated as we speak. My men will ensure he has his medication and everything else he needs. Relocated? You can't just... I stopped, remembering the gunshot, the words that had turned my world upside down. That bullet wasn't meant for me. It was meant for you. Who is he? Who am I? Vincent studied me for a moment, his silver eyes unreadable. Your father was born Matteo Ricci, son of Carlo Ricci. The names meant nothing to me, but something in the way Vincent said them, with a mix of respect and wariness, made my stomach knot. Carlo Ricci controlled the Eastern Territories for nearly 30 years, Vincent continued. Your grandfather was feared, respected, and eventually betrayed. The night he was killed, your father disappeared. Everyone thought he died in the same attack. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Instead, he became Michael Russo, married your mother, and raised you in suburbia, teaching Shakespeare to teenagers. My head spun. You're saying my grandfather was... What? Some kind of mobster? He was the head of one of the 5 families, Vincent said simply, as if that explained everything. I laughed, a brittle sound that bordered on hysteria. This is insane. My father is a quiet man who grows tomatoes and reads poetry. He's not some... Mafia heir. Vincent's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then slipped it into his pocket. Look at your hands. What? Your hands, Alessandra. Look at them. Confused, I turned my palms upward. They were small, with long fingers that my mother used to say were meant for playing piano, though we could never afford lessons. Your ring finger and index finger are exactly the same length on both hands, Vincent observed. It's a genetic trait of the Ricci bloodline, rare enough to be a signature. Your father has it. His father had it. I stared at my fingers, trying to process the implications. This doesn't prove anything. The DNA test will, though. Results should be back tomorrow. DNA test? I jerked my head up. What DNA test? From your water glass at Donnelly's. I needed to be certain before I intervened. Anger flared, momentarily displacing fear. You had me tested without my consent? His expression remained impassive. Would you have preferred I let you die while I waited for proper introductions? The SUV slowed, turning into an underground parking garage beneath a sleek high-rise that punctured the night sky. The concrete walls closed around us, swallowing the vehicle in shadow. When we stopped, Vincent's men exited first, scanning the area before opening his door. Come, he said, offering his hand. I hesitated, then took it, allowing him to help me from the car. His palm was warm and calloused, not the soft hands of a man who only gave orders, but of someone who had worked for what he had. We entered a private elevator that required a keycard and fingerprint. Vincent kept his hand at the small of my back, a touch that was both restraining and protective. The elevator ascended silently, floors ticking away as we rose above the city. Where are we going? I asked, my voice echoing in the small space. My penthouse. It's the safest place for you right now. And after right now, he glanced down at me. That depends on what you decide. I didn't realize I had choices. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. Everyone has choices, Alessandra, but some come with heavier consequences than others. The elevator doors opened directly into a vast living area. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the city spread out below, lights glittering through the rain like fallen stars. The decor was minimalist, all clean lines and neutral colors, more like a luxury hotel suite than a home. A woman with a sleek bob and sharp eyes stood waiting, hands clasped in front of her. Mr. Castellano, everything is prepared as you requested. Thank you, Diana, Vincent said. This is Ms. Russo. She'll be staying with us for a while. See that she has everything she needs. Diana nodded, her assessing gaze sweeping over me, taking in my server's uniform, my scuffed shoes, my disheveled appearance. Of course. Would you like me to show Ms. Russo to her room now? Vincent checked his watch. In a moment. Bring us some tea first. Diana disappeared, and Vincent gestured toward a seating area overlooking the city. I sank onto a leather sofa, suddenly aware of how exhausted I was. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving me hollow. Why did you save me? I asked as Vincent took a seat across from me. If what you say is true, if I'm a Ricci, aren't we supposed to be enemies or something? His expression softened slightly. The old blood feuds died with your grandfather's generation. Besides, there are more pressing concerns than decades-old rivalries. Like what? Like why someone would break 25 years of silence to put a bullet in Carlo Ricci's granddaughter. Diana returned with a tray holding an elegant teapot and 2 cups. She poured, then disappeared again, silent as a ghost. I wrapped my hands around the warm cup, seeking comfort. I still don't understand. If no one knew who I was, how did someone find me? And why now? Vincent leaned forward, elbows on his knees. In the dim light, with his tie loosened and a shadow of stubble darkening his jaw, he looked less like a fearsome Mafia boss and more like a tired man carrying too many secrets. 2 weeks ago, someone accessed sealed records from the night Carlo died. The next day, an old associate of your father's was found murdered in his home. 3 days after that, another. Someone is systematically eliminating everyone who knew about Matteo Ricci's escape. He paused. Your father must have realized he was being hunted. That's why he fell behind on payments. He was preparing to run. But he's sick, I protested. He can barely walk up a flight of stairs. Which is why he sent out distress signals instead. Distress signals? Vincent's expression was unreadable. Your apartment building is owned by a shell corporation that reports to a holding company that ultimately answers to me. Your father knew exactly who he was refusing to pay rent to. The implications hit me like a physical blow. He wanted you to notice us? To find me? Matteo was always clever. He knew he was running out of time. Vincent sipped his tea. What he didn't know was how close his enemies already were. The shooter tonight was just a hired gun, but whoever's paying knows your identity, your routine, possibly everything about you. A chill ran through me. How? I'm nobody. I work double shifts, take care of my dad, try to stay afloat. That's it. The same way I found you. Money buys information, Alessandra. And someone has invested heavily in finding Carlo Ricci's descendants. My head throbbed. It was too much to process. My quiet, bookish father as the son of a mob boss, my ordinary life as some kind of elaborate cover, and now assassins targeting me for a bloodline I never knew I had. I need to see my father, I said, setting down the cup with trembling hands. Not yet. It's not safe. You don't understand. He needs me. His medication has to be administered at specific times. He forgets to eat. Alessandra. Vincent's voice was firm but not unkind. Your father has lived 2 lives. He's survived things you can't imagine. Trust that he can manage one night without you. I wanted to argue, but exhaustion was pulling me under. Diana reappeared as if summoned by some unseen signal. Your room is ready, Ms. Russo, she said. I've laid out some clothes that should fit you. Vincent nodded. Get some rest. We'll talk more in the morning. I stood on unsteady feet. And then what? What happens to me? That, Vincent said, depends on what your father has been hiding all these years. Diana led me through the penthouse to a guest suite larger than my entire apartment. A set of silk pajamas waited on a king-size bed, along with toiletries and even a new toothbrush. I thanked Diana, who simply nodded and closed the door, leaving me alone. I sank onto the edge of the bed, running my fingers over the smooth fabric of the pajamas. None of this felt real. 12 hours ago, I'd been worrying about making rent. Now I was in a penthouse, wearing clothes that probably cost more than my monthly salary, hiding from killers who wanted me dead because of a grandfather I never knew existed. After showering, I crawled between sheets so soft they felt like clouds, but sleep eluded me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the shooter, heard the crack of gunfire, felt Vincent's body covering mine. I kept replaying his words. That bullet wasn't meant for me. It was meant for you. Eventually, I rose and moved to the window, staring out at the city below. Somewhere out there was my father, who apparently wasn't Michael Russo at all, but Matteo Ricci, heir to a criminal empire. Had it all been a lie? Every bedtime story, every piece of advice, every quiet evening watching old movies together? A soft knock startled me. I opened the door to find Vincent standing in the hallway, his suit jacket gone, sleeves rolled up to reveal powerful forearms marked with a few faded scars. You should be sleeping, he said, his voice low. So should you. The ghost of a smile touched his lips. I rarely sleep more than a few hours. Is that a Mafia boss thing, or just a you thing? Both, perhaps. He held out a phone. Your father wants to speak with you. I took the phone with shaking hands, pressing it to my ear. Dad? Alex. His familiar voice brought tears to my eyes. Are you all right? Am I all right? I choked out a laugh. Dad, what's going on? Where are you? Somewhere safe. He sounded tired, older than his 58 years. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I never wanted you involved in this life. So it's true? Everything he told me? A heavy sigh. Yes. I was born Matteo Ricci. My father was Carlo Ricci. The confirmation hit harder than I expected. Why didn't you tell me? To protect you. If you didn't know, you couldn't accidentally reveal anything. But now someone found us anyway. Yes. The word was weighted with regret. Alex, listen to me carefully. You need to trust Vincent. I glanced at Vincent, who had moved away to give me privacy but remained within sight. Why? If he's in the same business your father was. Because he's kept his word to me for 25 years, my father interrupted. And because he's the only one who can protect you now. From what? Who's trying to kill me? I don't know yet, but Vincent will find out. Another heavy sigh. I have to go. Remember that I love you, Alex. Everything I've done, the lies, all of it, was to give you a normal life. Dad, wait. Trust Vincent, he repeated, and forgive me. The line went dead. I lowered the phone, my vision blurred with tears. Vincent approached, taking the phone from my numb fingers. "He's safe," he assured me. "My best men are with him." "He told me to trust you," I said, looking up at him. "Why would he say that? Who are you to him?" Vincent was silent for a long moment, his silver eyes unreadable. "I was 16 when your father disappeared," he finally said. "My own father had just died, leaving me vulnerable. The other families were circling. Matteo could have eliminated me then, one less rival for territory. Instead, he helped me escape, gave me enough money to start over somewhere else. But you didn't leave. No. I stayed and built my own empire." His jaw tightened. "When I was strong enough, I tracked him down to repay my debt. He asked only one thing, to keep watch over his daughter if anything ever happened to him." I stared at him, struggling to reconcile the dangerous man who commanded fear with a single glance with someone who would honor a decades-old promise. So all this, the penthouse, the protection, it's just repaying a debt? Something flickered in his eyes. It started that way. And now? Vincent stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. "Now I find myself invested in your welfare beyond my obligation to your father." My breath caught. "Why?" His hand rose, hesitated, then gently tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. The touch was electric, sending a shiver down my spine. "Because you look at me without fear," he said softly. "Because you questioned me when everyone else obeys without thought. Because you worry about your sick father while assassins hunt you." His lips quirked. "And because you have the Ricci fire, even if you don't know it yet." Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. The moment shattered as he stepped back, checking the screen. "Try to sleep," he said, his voice returning to its usual commanding tone. "Tomorrow will be difficult." As he turned to leave, I called after him. "Vincent?" He paused, looking back. It was the first time I'd used his first name. "Thank you," I said, "for saving my life." Something softened in his expression. "Rest, Alessandra. I'll be close if you need me." After he left, I returned to bed. My mind still racing, but my heart oddly calmer. Whatever storm was coming, whatever truths awaited me about my family and my past, at least I wasn't facing them alone. I fell asleep thinking of silver eyes and gentle hands, wondering if the real danger wasn't the assassins hunting me, but the man who had sworn to protect me. Morning light filtered through the blinds, rousing me from a fitful sleep. For a disorienting moment, I didn't recognize my surroundings. The luxurious bedding, the spacious room, the panoramic view of the city. Then yesterday's events came rushing back. The shooting, Vincent's revelations, my father's confession. I sat up, rubbing my eyes. A soft knock at the door preceded Diana's entrance. She carried a tray with coffee and what smelled like freshly baked pastries. "Good morning, Miss Russo," she said, setting the tray on a small table by the window. "Mr. Castellano asked me to inform you that clean clothes are in the closet. He'll meet you in the dining room when you're ready." "Thank you," I said, self-conscious in the borrowed silk pajamas. "What time is it?" "Just after 9. She moved toward the door, then paused. "If I may, Mr. Castellano rarely brings guests here, especially not under protection. You must be very important." Before I could respond, she slipped out, leaving me to wonder what exactly she meant by important. The closet revealed an array of clothing in exactly my size. Jeans, blouses, even underwear with tags still attached. I tried not to think about how Vincent knew my measurements as I selected a simple outfit. Dark jeans and a soft gray sweater that probably cost more than a week's salary. After dressing, I followed the scent of coffee through the penthouse. Vincent sat at a glass dining table, documents spread before him, 2 phones within reach. He wore a charcoal suit that fit him perfectly, his dark hair slicked back, every inch the powerful businessman, or crime boss. It was still difficult to reconcile the 2 images. He looked up as I entered, his silver eyes taking in my appearance with a brief sweep that somehow felt more intimate than a lingering stare. "Did you sleep?" he asked, gathering the documents into a neat stack. "Some," I admitted, taking the seat across from him. "You?" Enough. He pushed a plate of pastries toward me. Eat, we have a busy day. I selected a croissant, realizing I was famished. What happens now? Now we determine who's trying to kill you and why. Vincent poured coffee into a delicate cup and slid it toward me. The DNA results confirmed what I already knew. You are Carlo Ricci's granddaughter. I took a sip of the coffee, rich and smooth, unlike the bitter brew I made at home. Does that make me valuable or dangerous? Both, he said simply. The Ricci bloodline still commands respect in certain circles. Others would consider it a threat to be eliminated. But my father left that world behind decades ago. Why come after us now? Vincent's expression darkened. That's what we need to discover. Someone has gone to great lengths to find you, which suggests they believe your father took something when he disappeared. Something worth killing for after all these years. Like what? Money? Information? Perhaps? Vincent's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then stood. Your father is here. My heart leapt. Dad? Here? In the secure room downstairs. I'll take you to him. We rode the elevator down several floors in silence. Vincent's presence filled the small space. His cologne, that same sandalwood and storm, making my head swim slightly. When the doors opened, 2 armed guards nodded respectfully as we passed. Vincent led me to a room that resembled a small apartment, with security monitors on one wall. And there, sitting in an armchair looking frailer than I remembered, was my father. Dad! I rushed to him, falling to my knees beside his chair. Up close, the toll of his illness was even more apparent. The pallor of his skin, the hollows beneath his cheekbones, the slight tremor in his hands as they clasped mine. Alex, he murmured, his eyes filling with tears. I'm so sorry. I squeezed his hands. Why didn't you tell me? All these years. He glanced past me to where Vincent stood by the door. Could we have a moment? Vincent hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes. Then we need to talk. All of us. He stepped outside, closing the door behind him. My father sagged in his chair. This isn't how I wanted you to find out, he said, his voice thin with exhaustion. I thought I'd buried that life so deeply it would never touch you. What happened? Why did you leave it all behind? He closed his eyes briefly. The night my father was killed, I wasn't supposed to be at the compound. I'd defied him, gone to meet a girl. A sad smile touched his lips. When I returned, everyone was dead. My father, my uncles, cousins, even the staff. A bloodbath. I squeezed his hands tighter, horrified. I knew whoever did it would come for me next, he continued. So I ran, changed my name, my appearance, moved across the country. Then I met your mother, and for the first time in my life I knew peace. His eyes, so like mine, filled with tears. When she died giving birth to you, I swore I'd keep you safe from my past. I thought I had. But someone found us. Yes. His expression hardened slightly. Someone who knows that Carlo Ricci left something behind, something only his heir could claim. What are you talking about? Before he could answer, the door opened, and Vincent returned. Time's up. We need to talk strategy. My father straightened in his chair. Despite his illness, there was a new firmness in his posture, a shadow of the man he must have been before becoming Michael Russo. Vincent, he acknowledged. Your men are efficient. Thank you for protecting my daughter. I keep my promises, Matteo. Vincent took a seat across from us. But now I need the truth. What did Carlo hide that's worth killing for 25 years later? My father sighed heavily. Before my father died, he converted much of his wealth to diamonds. Untraceable, easy to transport. The night of the attack, he gave me a key to a safety deposit box and told me to run. Inside was a ledger with account numbers, property deeds, and the location of the diamonds. Did you take them? Vincent asked. No. I wanted nothing to do with blood money. I locked the ledger away and never looked back. And now someone else has learned of its existence, Vincent concluded. The question is who? My father looked troubled. There were rumors, even then, that my father's murder was orchestrated from within. A trusted advisor who wanted control. Salvatore Bianchi, Vincent said, his voice hardening. He disappeared the same night as the massacre, presumed dead. But if he survived, he'd be an old man now, my father pointed out. Old men have sons, grandsons. Vincent's eyes narrowed. Grudges and greed transcend generations in our world. Our world. Not my world, I thought, still struggling to reconcile my father, the man who cried during sad movies and taught high school English, with this stranger who spoke of massacres and blood money. What do we do? I asked, looking between them. Vincent leaned forward. We need to find the ledger before they do. Where did you hide it, Matteo? My father hesitated. A safe place. One only family could access. Something in his tone made me look at him more closely. Dad? What aren't you telling me? He reached for my hand, his fingers tracing the outline of my own. The key to finding it is in your blood, Alex. In our shared genes. The equal fingers, Vincent murmured, understanding dawning in his eyes. My father nodded. My father was obsessed with the family's genetic markers. He designed a security system keyed to specific genetic traits. The same length ring and index fingers, a particular pattern in the iris only Ricci's possess. So only someone with Ricci DNA can access it, I said, finally understanding. That's why they need me. The shooter wasn't trying to kill me. They were trying to capture you, Vincent finished, his expression grim. Killing you was likely a last resort if the abduction failed. A chill ran through me. What do we do now? We get to the ledger first, my father said firmly, before they realize I'm still alive. Vincent stood, pacing the room with coiled energy. Where is it? My father looked at me apologetically. The family mausoleum in St. Michael's Cemetery. I hid it behind my grandfather's nameplate. A cemetery? I couldn't hide my disbelief. You hid a fortune in a grave? It was the one place I knew would remain undisturbed, my father said. The Ricci mausoleum is sealed to all but family. Vincent was already on his phone, issuing orders. When he finished, he turned to us. We move tonight. My men will secure the perimeter, but only Alessandra can enter the mausoleum. I'll go with her, my father insisted, attempting to stand. No, Vincent and I said in unison. Dad, you're too weak, I added gently, helping him back into his chair. I can do this. Vincent came to stand beside me, his presence solid and reassuring. I'll be with her the entire time. No harm will come to her. My father studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I trust you, Vincent. I always have. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of pride and regret. You have more of the Ricci in you than you know, Alex. More than I ever wanted for you. The pain in his voice broke my heart. I knelt beside him again, taking his hands in mine. I'm still your daughter. Nothing changes that. His smile was sad. Everything changes now. Once you open that vault, there's no going back. The wealth inside, it comes with a price. I don't want it, I said firmly. We'll get the ledger, stop whoever's hunting us, and then go back to our lives. My father exchanged a look with Vincent that I couldn't interpret. It's not that simple, he said gently. The Ricci name, the heritage, it's in your blood now, acknowledged. Once certain people know you exist, they'll never stop coming. Then what am I supposed to do? It was Vincent who answered. Accept protection. Permanently. I turned to him, startled. What does that mean? His silver eyes were intense, holding mine. It means you live under my guard, in my world, under my name. You're talking about making her your wife, my father said flatly. The word hung in the air between us. Wife. I stared at Vincent, speechless. It's the most efficient solution, Vincent replied, his tone businesslike but his eyes never leaving mine. My protection extends to anyone bearing my name. No one would dare touch her. And what about what I want? I found my voice at last. Don't I get a say in my own future? Vincent's expression softened slightly. Of course, but understand this. There are limited options that ensure your survival. My father sighed heavily. He's right, Alex. In this world, you're either family or you're not. Vincent's offer. It's more generous than you realize. I felt trapped between two worlds. The safe, ordinary life I'd known, and this dangerous new reality where my very blood made me a target. And at the center of it all was Vincent Castellano, the man who had saved my life and now offered me his name as shield. "I need time," I said finally. "Let's get through tonight first." Vincent nodded once. "Fair enough." As we prepared for the cemetery mission, I couldn't help but wonder if I was walking toward my salvation or my doom. Either way, after tonight, nothing would ever be the same again. Dusk settled over the city as we prepared to leave for St. Michael's Cemetery. Vincent had outfitted me in dark clothing, practical black pants, a fitted sweater, and leather boots with good traction. I felt like I was dressing for a heist rather than a visit to my ancestors' graves. "Take this," Vincent said, pressing something into my palm, a small silver pendant on a delicate chain, a stylized lion with ruby eyes. "It's the Castellano crest. If we're separated, it identifies you as under my protection." I slipped it over my head, the metal warm against my skin. "Will it actually help?" In my world, symbols matter. His fingers lingered briefly at my neck, adjusting the chain. "My name carries weight. Use it if necessary." We rode down in the private elevator, tension building with each descending floor. In the parking garage, 4 SUVs with tinted windows waited, engines running. "Decoys," Vincent explained as we approached the vehicles. "Standard procedure." I nodded, trying to appear unfazed by these cloak-and-dagger measures that were apparently standard in his life. We entered the third vehicle, Vincent's hand steady at the small of my back. Inside, 2 armed men nodded respectfully. "Status?" Vincent asked as we pulled away, the other SUVs dispersing in different directions. "Perimeter secure, sir," the man in the passenger seat reported. "Team 1 is already on site sweeping the cemetery. No unusual activity detected." Vincent's phone buzzed. He read the message, his jaw tightening. "The Bianchi compound has been active tonight. Multiple vehicles departing in the last hour." "They know," I whispered, a chill running through me. "Perhaps." Vincent's eyes were hard, calculating. "Or they're responding to another matter. Either way, we move quickly." The journey to the cemetery took nearly an hour, navigating through the city and then into the quieter outskirts. Vincent remained silent beside me, occasionally checking his phone or speaking quietly into a small communication device in his ear. I stared out the window, watching as streetlights gave way to darker roads, trees casting long shadows in the moonlight. We finally stopped about a block from the cemetery entrance. Vincent turned to me, his expression grave. "The mausoleum is near the center, correct?" I nodded. "According to my father's directions, we'll approach on foot. Stay close to me." He checked a sleek handgun before tucking it inside his jacket. "If anything happens, you run. My men will find you." The night air was crisp, carrying the scent of autumn leaves and distant rain. Vincent led me along a path that skirted the main entrance, heading toward a less conspicuous side gate where a shadow detached itself from the wall, one of his men, who unlocked the gate for us with a quick nod. St. Michael's Cemetery stretched before us, a city of stone and marble beneath a canopy of ancient trees. Moonlight filtered through bare branches, casting ghostly patterns across the graves. In daylight, it might have been peaceful. At night, every shadow seemed to harbor threats. Vincent's hand found the small of my back, guiding me forward. We moved silently between headstones and monuments, our breathing forming small clouds in the cold air. I tried to focus on my father's directions, scanning for landmarks. "There," I whispered, pointing to a hill crowned with larger mausoleums. "The Ricci tomb should be on the eastern slope beneath an oak tree." Vincent murmured something into his communication device, and I glimpsed movement in the distance, his men taking positions around the area. We climbed the gentle slope, my heart pounding harder with each step. What if my father was wrong? What if the ledger wasn't there? Or worse, what if someone had already found it? The Ricci mausoleum rose before us, a grand structure of pale marble that gleamed in the moonlight. Classical columns supported a pediment adorned with carved angels and a single word, Ricci. "My father said there's a specific sequence to open the outer door," I said, studying the elaborate bronze doors. "Based on Fibonacci numbers, using the dates of birth carved on the nameplates inside." Vincent examined the doors. No lock. "That's the point. The sequence activates a hidden mechanism. I ran my fingers along the ornate carvings, finding a series of small, almost imperceptible buttons worked into the design. My father said his grandfather was paranoid about grave robbers. He designed this himself. Following my father's instructions, I pressed the buttons in sequence, each corresponding to a number in the Fibonacci series. On the final press, a soft click echoed in the quiet night, and the heavy doors swung inward. The air that greeted us was cool and stale, untouched for decades. Vincent produced a small flashlight, illuminating a chamber lined with marble niches, each bearing a nameplate and dates of birth and death. Generations of Ricci's, their remains resting in this opulent tomb, while their descendants fought and died for power. My great-grandfather should be on the far wall, I said, my voice hushed in the sacred space. We moved deeper into the mausoleum, our footsteps echoing softly. The beam of Vincent's flashlight danced across gilded nameplates, revealing Italian inscriptions and faded photographs of stern-faced men and solemn women. Antonio Ricci, I read, stopping before a large plaque bearing the image of an imposing man with a thick mustache. 1878-1962. Vincent examined the nameplate. How do we access behind it? My father said there's another sequence. I studied the dates, calculating quickly. The month and day of his birth and death multiplied together. I pressed specific points around the nameplate, hearing a soft click with each touch. On the final press, the entire section of wall shifted slightly. Vincent helped me ease it forward, revealing a small alcove behind. Within lay a metal box, its surface etched with the same lion crest that now hung around my neck. That's the Castellano crest, I said, confused. Why would it be here? Vincent's expression was unreadable. The Ricci and Castellano families were allies once, before the betrayal. Your great-grandfather and mine were blood brothers. I carefully lifted the box from its hiding place. It was heavier than it looked, the metal cool against my fingers. Now what? We leave. Quickly, Vincent's hand returned to my back, guiding me toward the entrance. The night air felt surprisingly fresh after the stale atmosphere of the tomb. We sealed the mausoleum doors and began our descent back toward the cemetery entrance, the box tucked securely under my arm. We had almost reached the gate when Vincent suddenly stiffened, his arm shooting out to stop me. Down, he commanded, pushing me behind a large headstone. Seconds later, I heard it, the soft crunch of footsteps on gravel, approaching from the main entrance. Vincent drew his gun, his body positioned to shield mine. How many? I whispered. At least 4, he murmured. They must have followed one of the decoys. He pressed his communication device. East quadrant. 4 hostiles. Converge quietly. More footsteps now, spreading out among the graves, searching. My grip tightened on the metal box as I pressed myself against the cold stone. Vincent's eyes met mine in the darkness. When I move, run for the gate. Don't stop. Don't look back. I nodded, heart thundering in my chest. A beam of light swept across the ground near our hiding place. Vincent tensed, ready to spring. I clutched the pendant at my throat, its edges biting into my palm. The light passed, continuing its arc across the cemetery. Vincent waited 1 breath, 2, then whispered, Now. We moved silently at first, keeping low among the headstones. Then a shout cut through the night, followed by the crack of gunfire. Vincent pushed me forward. Run! I ran, the box clutched to my chest, boots slipping on wet grass. Behind me came more shouts, more gunfire, and the heavy sound of pursuit. The gate loomed ahead, tantalizingly close. 20 yards, 15, 10. Something whistled past my ear. A bullet, I realized with horror. I didn't slow down. 5 yards from the gate, pain exploded in my shoulder, spinning me around. I stumbled, nearly dropping the box, but somehow kept my feet. Another shot cracked through the night, and one of my pursuers cried out, falling. Strong arms encircled me, pulling me through the gate. Vincent. He half carried, half dragged me to the waiting SUV, shoving me inside before leaping in after me. Go! He barked, and the vehicle lurched forward, tires squealing on pavement. You're hit, Vincent said, his voice tight as he examined my shoulder. Just grazed, I gasped, though the burning pain suggested otherwise. Vincent tore open my sweater to reveal a deep furrow along my upper arm, blood flowing freely. He pressed a cloth against it, his face dark with fury. "Apply pressure. We'll have a doctor waiting at the penthouse." I nodded, gritting my teeth against the pain. The metal box sat between us, secured by Vincent's free hand. "Did you see who they were?" I asked as the SUV sped through the night, 2 more identical vehicles appearing to flank us. "Bianchi's men," Vincent confirmed grimly. "The old alliance is apparently still operational." "Did we lose anyone?" Something flickered in Vincent's eyes, surprise perhaps that my first concern was for his men. "No. 2 wounded, but they'll live." I leaned back, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline was fading, leaving room for the pain to assert itself. "What now?" "Now we open the box and end this." Vincent's hand found mine, squeezing gently. "You did well tonight, Alessandra. Your father would be proud." Back at the penthouse, a doctor was indeed waiting. He cleaned and stitched my wound with efficient precision, administered painkillers, and departed with a respectful nod to Vincent, who had not left my side during the procedure. "You need rest," Vincent said as the doctor left. I shook my head, eyeing the metal box that now sat on the coffee table. "Not until we know what was worth killing for." Vincent studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Very well." My father waited for us in the living room, his face pale with concern. "Alex, they told me you were shot." "I'm fine, Dad," I assured him, accepting his careful embrace. "Just a graze." His eyes fell on the box. "You found it." "Yes. Now we need to open it." I turned to Vincent. "How do we do that?" My father moved to the box, running his fingers along the etched crest. "Your mother's wedding band," he said softly. "I had it modified after she died. The center stone. It's the key." I touched the ring that hung on a chain beneath my sweater, my most precious possession. Carefully, I unclasped it and handed it to him. He removed the small diamond from its setting and inserted it into a nearly invisible hole in the lion's eye on the box. With a soft click, the lid released. Inside lay a leather-bound ledger, yellowed with age, and beneath it a velvet pouch. My father opened the ledger first, its pages filled with neat columns of numbers, addresses, and names. "The Ricci Empire," he murmured. "Properties, accounts, contacts, everything Carlo built over his lifetime." Vincent examined a page over my father's shoulder. Most of these accounts would be long frozen, but the properties... His finger traced a list of addresses. Many of these would still be valid, worth millions, perhaps billions in today's market. My father set the ledger aside and opened the velvet pouch. Diamonds spilled onto the table, catching the light. Dozens of them, each the size of a small pebble. "Untraceable wealth," Vincent said softly. "Enough to rebuild an empire." I stared at the glittering stones, feeling strangely detached. This is what they were willing to kill for? Rocks and old paper? "Power," Vincent corrected. "These represent power, Alessandra. The ability to start over, to challenge existing hierarchies." He looked at my father. "Salvatore Bianchi has been consolidating his position for years. With this ledger, he could claim everything that was once Carlo's. And now?" I asked. "What happens to all this?" My father closed the pouch, his expression resolute. "It belongs to you, Alex. You're the last Ricci." I shook my head. "I don't want it. Any of it." "It's not that simple," Vincent said, his voice gentle but firm. "Whether you claim it or not, others know you exist now. They'll never stop coming for what they believe should be theirs." The weight of his words settled over me. There was no going back to my old life. Waitressing shifts and quiet evenings with my father. That world was gone forever. "Then what do I do?" I asked, looking between the 2 men who had shaped my destiny without my knowledge. My father, who had hidden me from this world, and Vincent, who had pulled me into it. Vincent's silver eyes met mine. "You embrace your heritage. You take what's yours, and you let me protect you while you do." In that moment, I understood what he was really saying. The protection he offered came with a price. Becoming part of his world permanently. Becoming his. As if reading my thoughts, he added softly, The choice is still yours, Alessandra. It always will be. 3 days passed in a blur of revelations and decisions. My father's condition worsened slightly from the stress of our cemetery excursion, confining him to bed rest under the watchful eye of Vincent's private physician. I spent most of my time at his side, discussing the past he had hidden and the future that loomed before me. "I never wanted this life for you," he said on the third afternoon, his voice weaker than the day before. "I thought by running, by becoming someone else, I could give you freedom from the Ricci legacy." I squeezed his hand gently, mindful of the IV that delivered his medication. "You gave me 25 wonderful years, Dad. No one could ask for more. But now you're faced with impossible choices." His eyes, so like mine, filled with regret. "Vincent Castellano is a dangerous man, Alex. Powerful, feared, but he's honorable in his own way." "You trust him," I observed. It wasn't a question. "With your life?" "Yes." My father sighed. "With your happiness? That depends on you." Outside my father's room, Vincent's world continued to move at a relentless pace. Teams of lawyers reviewed the property deeds from the ledger, confirming which were still valid. Security remained tight around the penthouse, with guards rotating shifts and surveillance monitoring every approach. And at the center of it all, Vincent himself orchestrated a complex game of power and protection, his silver eyes always watching, always calculating. I found him late that night on the penthouse balcony, a glass of whiskey in hand as he gazed out at the city lights. He'd removed his suit jacket and tie, the top buttons of his shirt undone, revealing the strong column of his throat. It was the most unguarded I'd seen him. "Your father?" he asked without turning. "Sleeping finally," I said, moving to stand beside him at the railing. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of approaching rain. "The doctor says he needs to be in a hospital. Too exposed." Vincent took a sip of his whiskey. "I've arranged for a specialist to come tomorrow, the best in the country." I nodded, grateful yet again for his resources. "Any news about the Bianchis?" "They've gone quiet. Regrouping, most likely." His jaw tightened. "Salvatore's grandson, Marco, has taken over operations. He's young, ambitious, dangerous. You know him?" A ghost of a smile touched Vincent's lips. "We attended the same boarding school, ironically. Even then, he had a reputation for cruelty." I processed this, trying to imagine Vincent as a schoolboy. It seemed impossible to reconcile the powerful man beside me with a child in a uniform. "The lawyers have verified ownership of 7 properties so far," Vincent continued. 2 in this city, others in Miami, Chicago, and overseas. All still in the Ricci name, all valuable. "I don't care about property or money," I said, wrapping my arms around myself against the chill. Vincent set down his glass and removed his suit jacket, draping it over my shoulders. The weight of it enveloped me, along with his warmth and scent. "Whether you care or not, these assets make you a target," he said, his voice low. "Marco Bianchi believes they belong to him through his grandfather's claim. He won't stop until he has them, or until you're dead." I turned to face him fully. "Then we give them to him. The properties, the diamonds, all of it. I just want my life back." Vincent's expression softened, something like tenderness flickering in his eyes. "Alessandra, don't you understand? There is no going back. Even if you surrendered everything, the Bianchi family would still eliminate you to prevent any future claims. In our world, loose ends don't survive. Your world," I corrected. "Not mine. It became your world the moment that bullet was meant for you." His hand rose to my face, fingertips tracing my cheek with surprising gentleness. "You have your grandfather's eyes, his determination. The Ricci blood runs strong in you, whether you acknowledge it or not." I leaned into his touch despite myself. "So what do I do? Hide forever? Live in fear?" "No." His voice was firm. "You take what's yours. You build something stronger than what they can destroy. And you align yourself with power that even the Bianchis won't challenge. You," I whispered. Vincent nodded, his thumb brushing my lower lip. "Me." The proposal that had hung unspoken between us for days suddenly crystallized into reality. "You're asking me to marry you?" "Yes." No romantic declarations, no flowery words, Just that single, decisive syllable. My name, my resources, my protection. All yours. And what do you get from this arrangement? His silver eyes darkened. The Ricci assets would double my territory. Together, our families would control the eastern seaboard. No one would dare challenge us. A business merger, then. I stepped back, his jacket sliding from my shoulders. How romantic. Vincent caught the jacket before it fell, his other hand grasping my wrist. Don't mistake pragmatism for lack of desire, Alessandra. His voice dropped lower, rougher. I've wanted you since I first saw you at Donnelly's. The business advantages are secondary. Heat rushed to my face. You barely know me. I know enough. His grip on my wrist loosened, becoming a caress. I know you work double shifts to care for your father. I know you wear secondhand shoes but give your tips to the busboy who's saving for college. I know you read poetry to your father when his eyes are too weak to see the pages. I stared at him, startled by how much he'd observed. You've been watching me. For months, he admitted without shame. Ever since your father stopped paying rent. His signal that trouble was coming. The realization that Vincent had been present in my life long before I knew him was both unnerving and strangely comforting. So when you came to Donnelly's that night, I was there to meet you, to see for myself if Matteo Ricci's daughter was worth protecting. A smile touched his lips. You exceeded every expectation. Before I could respond, the balcony door opened and Diana appeared. Mr. Castellano, urgent call from Sector 4. Vincent's expression immediately closed, returning to the impassive mask of the Mafia boss. Excuse me, he said, taking his jacket and following Diana inside. I remained on the balcony, my thoughts in turmoil. Marriage to Vincent Castellano, a man I barely knew, yet who had saved my life, protected my father, and now offered me a future I had never imagined. Was it a devil's bargain, or my only salvation? The next morning, my father's condition had stabilized enough for a serious conversation. I sat beside his bed, the weight of decisions pressing down on me. Vincent asked me to marry him, I said quietly. My father nodded, unsurprised. And your answer? I haven't given one yet. I twisted my mother's ring around my finger. Dad, I don't know what to do. He's offering protection, security, everything we need right now. But not love, my father observed. I looked away. He says he wants me. That might be enough to start with. My father reached for my hand. When I met your mother, it was during my darkest time. I was running, hiding, constantly looking over my shoulder. She became my anchor, my reason for becoming Michael Russo instead of remaining Matteo Ricci. His eyes grew distant with memory. I didn't know it was love at first, only that I needed her. The love came later, growing day by day until it consumed me entirely. Are you saying I should accept him? I'm saying that in our world, yes. Ours, Alex. Whether you like it or not, marriages have been built on less. Security, advantage, protection. He squeezed my hand. Vincent Castellano is not the man I would have chosen for you in another life, but he's the man who can keep you alive in this one. And I believe, given time, there could be more between you. Before I could respond, a commotion outside drew my attention. Raised voices, hurried footsteps. My father tensed, eyes darting to the door. Stay here, I said, rising to investigate. In the hallway, Vincent's men moved with purpose, weapons visible. Diana hurried past with a phone pressed to her ear. What's happening? I asked, grabbing her arm. She hesitated, then said, Bianchi's men have been spotted in the building. Lower floors for now, but they're working their way up. Cold fear washed over me. How? This place is supposed to be secure. Someone on the inside, she said grimly. Security has been compromised, as if summoned by our conversation. Vincent appeared, his expression thunderous. Get your father ready to move, he ordered. We're evacuating to the safe house. Vincent, what's... Now, Alessandra. His voice brooked no argument. We have minutes, not hours. I rushed back to my father's room, quickly explaining the situation as I helped him dress. He moved slowly, pain evident in every gesture despite his attempts to hide it. I'll only slow you down, he said as I helped him to his feet. We're not leaving you, I said firmly, supporting his weight. When we emerged, Vincent was waiting with 2 of his men. The service elevator is secure. We take it down to the garage, then split into separate vehicles. His eyes met mine. You and your father go with Paolo. I'll create a diversion. No, I said immediately. We stay together. Something flashed in Vincent's eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or respect. It's safer if we separate. I don't care. I'm not leaving you behind. Vincent assessed me for a long moment, then nodded. Together then. But we move now. The journey to the service elevator was tense, every shadow a potential threat. My father leaned heavily on my arm, his breathing labored from even this small exertion. When we reached the elevator, Vincent punched a code into a hidden panel, bypassing the usual controls. The garage has been secured, one of his men reported through a communication device. Clear path to the vehicles. The elevator began its descent, the digital numbers ticking down floor by floor. 30, 25, 20. My heart raced with each passing floor, expecting the elevator to halt at any moment, doors opening to reveal armed enemies. At floor 10, the elevator jolted to a stop. Vincent immediately pushed my father and me behind him, gun drawn. Override failed, he said tersely. They've taken control of the building systems. One of his men pried open a panel in the ceiling, revealing an emergency hatch. Sir, we can climb to the next floor. Access the stairwell. Vincent nodded. Take them up. I'll hold here. No, I said again, more forcefully this time. We stay together. You said it yourself. In this world, there's no room for loose ends. Our eyes locked in silent battle. Finally, Vincent gave a sharp nod. Up then. All of us. It was a struggle to get my father through the hatch, his weakness more pronounced with each passing minute. By the time we all stood in the darkened elevator shaft, he was pale and shaking. I can't climb the stairs, he admitted, defeat in his voice. You need to go without me. Dad, no. Alessandra. His voice, though weak, carried the authority of the man he had once been. Listen to me. I've lived 2 lives already, more than most get. But your life is just beginning. Vincent placed a hand on my shoulder. We can send men back for him once we're clear. I knew it was a lie, a kind one, but a lie nonetheless. If we left my father behind, he would be dead before help returned. The choice before me was impossible. Stay and likely die with my father, or leave and live with the knowledge that I had abandoned him. My father saw the conflict in my eyes and made the choice for me. Vincent, he said, voice suddenly stronger. You swore to protect my daughter. Now prove it. Take her away from here, no matter what she says. Vincent's face was grim as he nodded. You have my word, Matteo. Before I could protest, my father pulled me into a fierce embrace. I love you, Alex. I always have. Everything I've done was to protect me, I finished, tears streaming down my face. I know, Dad. I love you too. He pressed something into my palm, the velvet pouch of diamonds. Your inheritance. Use it wisely. Then he pushed me toward Vincent. Go. Now. Vincent's arm wrapped around my waist, practically lifting me as I fought to stay. We have to move, he said in my ear. Don't let his sacrifice be for nothing. The last image I had of my father was of him standing straight and proud in the elevator shaft, no longer the frail man I had known, but Matteo Ricci once more, facing his destiny with courage. We climbed to the next floor and forced open the elevator doors, emerging into an empty hallway. Vincent led us through a series of service corridors, avoiding the main hallways where Bianchi's men would be searching. My mind was numb, moving on autopilot as we descended through the building. When gunfire erupted behind us, I barely registered it. Vincent pushed me into an alcove, shielding me with his body as his men returned fire. Stay with me, Alessandra, he said fiercely, his face inches from mine. I need you focused. Your father needs you to survive this. His words penetrated my fog of grief. I nodded, straightening. What do we do? We're 2 floors from the garage. We make a run for it when I give the signal. His silver eyes held mine. And when we're clear, I need your answer. My answer? to my proposal. Even in the midst of chaos, his intensity was unwavering. If you're mine, I can bring the full force of my organization against Bianchi. If not, he left the alternative unspoken. In that moment, with bullets flying and my father sacrificing himself for my escape, the decision crystallized with perfect clarity. The old Alex, the invisible server with secondhand shoes, was already gone. What remained was blood of the Ricci line, heir to an empire built on power and fear. I reached up, touching Vincent's face. "Yes," I said, "I'll marry you." Something fierce and possessive flashed in his eyes. Without warning, he kissed me, hard, demanding, claiming. Heat surged through me, banishing grief and fear, replacing them with a strange new power. When he pulled back, his expression was transformed, no longer merely protective, now triumphant. "Now let's kill these bastards and avenge your father," he said. "He's not dead yet," I reminded him, a steel I didn't recognize entering my voice. Vincent's smile was predatory. "And neither are we." The firefight that followed was a blur of noise and movement. Vincent's men created a corridor for us, and we ran. Through service hallways, down emergency stairs, finally emerging in the garage where more of Vincent's people waited with vehicles running. As we sped away from the penthouse, explosions rocked the building behind us, Vincent's parting gift to Bianchi's men. I watched through the rear window as flames licked up the side of the tower, knowing my father was still inside but understanding his choice with a clarity that came from my newly awakened Ricci blood. "We'll return for him," Vincent promised, his hand finding mine in the darkness of the car. "Dead or alive, we'll bring him home," I nodded, feeling a transformation completing within me. Alessandra Russo was fading, and someone new was taking her place. Someone with my face and voice, but with an ancient legacy coursing through her veins. "Where to now?" I asked. Vincent's fingers tightened around mine. "To war, Alessandra. First we secure you as my wife, then we destroy the Bianchis completely." As the city blurred past our windows and dawn broke on the horizon, I realized I was no longer afraid. The bullet meant for me that first night at Donnelly's had missed its mark, but it had still killed someone, the innocent, invisible girl I had been. In her place sat the future Mrs. Castellano, last of the Ricci line, about to take her place beside the most dangerous man in the city. Vincent had saved my life that night at Donnelly's, just as he'd promised. But in doing so, he had bound me to a destiny I never could have imagined, one where danger and power walked hand in hand, and love and fear were opposite sides of the same deadly coin. I wasn't running from my heritage anymore. I was embracing it, and heaven help anyone who stood in my way.